Next up on our question list is Margaret from Jonesboro. And Margaret asks, how do I know when to take Social Security? I don't want to lose out on money if the trust fund runs out, and I delayed taking it instead of going ahead and getting what I can. Using that word trust fund, that means Margaret's been on Google or she's been watching the news, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's out there pretty frequently. It kind of ebbs and flows. I mean, the reality is there's a trust fund report that comes out every April. So when that comes out, and it's usually some pretty dire news that comes out with it, there's a lot of headlines about the trust fund and Social Security is running out. We've addressed this before, but the first thing we should talk about here is it's been fixed before, Janet, and it will likely be fixed again.
So when we say it's been fixed before, a lot of people don't think about this, but you see proof of this on your statements. But the reality is, when Social Security first came out, the full retirement age was 65. And over the years, that has been stepped up so that we've now gotten to the point where full retirement age for the youngest people, full retirement age is at 67. And so if they were to shift this, and we'll talk in a moment about the possibilities on that, but if they were to shift this to 69 as an example, then that extends the life of the program. But here's what I would say about this. We hear people talk for all the time. Frankly, I've been in the industry for over 2 decades, and for over 2 decades, people have said, I need to get my check before they run out of money because the trust fund is going to go broke, and it hadn't happened yet. And the reason it hasn't happened yet is that people with gray hair vote, and politicians are the ones responsible for fixing this. And I believe that ultimately we get to the point, as Winston Churchill said, that the Americans, after having exhausted all other measures, will ultimately do the right thing. And so they will fix it because they want to get reelected. They may not fix it perfectly. I don't expect that, but they will fix it in terms of keeping it from dissolving completely. So I would encourage you, Margaret, to really look at your Social Security decision relative to your retirement plan, not relative to what the news is telling you about the future of Social Security.
Yeah, and for everyone listening who's not familiar, we can go over the facts of what they're telling us in that report. And as of right now, if nothing is done, and when we say done, and we mean in law, in the legislative branch of this government, the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to run out of money in the next decade. Now, what does that mean? It does not mean that the Social Security checks stop coming. By law, they have to continue to reach the recipients. What it does mean is there would have to be a reduction in the amount of those benefits, and it's projected to be anywhere from 20 to 25%. That would be a cut across the board. So if politicians do not act over the next decade, yes, your Social Security benefit would be cut. No, your Social Security benefit would not be eliminated. So let's talk through over what could happen over the next decade. Well, you've already mentioned the people with gray hair, including myself, are the ones that vote, right? So it's not going to be politically popular for whichever party is in control of Congress at that time to not do anything and let this lapse. But what is also not politically popular in the meantime is to propose any changes, because proposing a change is not going to be an easy fix, right? There was just a couple of weeks ago a Republican proposal in the U.S. House to raise the full retirement age to 69, and not even immediately, but over the next decade. And there was a Democratic response to that from one congressman. He said that Republicans are attempting to renege on our sacred promise to American workers and seniors. That was Brendan Boyle, Democrat from Pennsylvania. Now, wait a minute. By raising the full retirement age by 2 years, that's the political charged response because they're using it for political gain. And to be fair, this would go the other way, right? If the Democrats had proposed a proposal to raise taxes, there would be a similar response from the Republicans.
Right. It's absolutely divided and a significant amount of political infighting over this. But I want people to think about why just the math behind this, that benefits would be cut by 20 to 25%, and why that is. Why Social Security going broke is not the same thing as an individual going broke. When an individual goes broke, there is no money left. when Social Security, and again, we don't believe that it would, but if Social Security were to go broke, it's different because, Scott, as we're doing this show right now, there are two people in the room with us who are off camera, and they are 2 to 3 decades younger than you and I are. Mm-hmm. They have more working years in front of them than we do. And so when you and I get to the point where we are collecting Social Security, they are still going to be working, and they are paying into the system. I have often thought about the Social Security money that I pay into the system now as I'm working going to my mom. Now, it doesn't really work that way. It's not allocated for her. I get that. But here's the point. Somebody, and a whole lot of somebodies, are still going to be working and paying into it. So if you have a 25% reduction, that means your $2,000 benefit in what they're calling now a worst case scenario would go to $1,500. So it is not the absence of $2,000 completely gone. It is a reduction. But again, we still firmly believe here at GenWealth that it will be fixed before we get to a point even of reduction.
Yeah, it is definitely still a foundational component for your retirement income, but it certainly won't be enough. So the idea here is to build a plan, Margaret, that really using your assets can determine what is your monthly income going to be in retirement. And that'll help you kind of understand that if the Social Security benefit fluctuates, I still know what that does to my overall income. And when it comes to how Margaret should claim, Janet, that's really, you mentioned it earlier, let's make a Social Security decision based on your situation, not the trust fund situation.
Yeah, and I just think that's critical. And Margaret, I'll go beyond what's on your statement here. Your statement looks at you as an individual. It does not consider if there's any impact from household on what you could do in terms of Social Security planning. And I think this is very important for all of our listeners who have not yet claimed Social Security. Your statement is only going to show you your individual options at certain ages. It is not going to show you the strategies. And there are lots of strategies available in how you claim Social Security. So we want to think about, are you married? Are you divorced? And if you're divorced, how long were you married? Did you make it past that 10-year marker? Because then you've got some other choices available to you. Are you widowed? When do you plan to retire? And just looking at that as, again, if there is a household, if it's not just you singularly, looking at that as a holistic, or a portion rather, of your holistic retirement plan. It is not a decision to be made independently. It really needs to be looked at with everything else together. If
you've got questions, if you're listening, more questions about Social Security, when to claim, how your investments can play a role in your retirement income, you can reach out and talk to a GenWealth financial advisor. It's easy to do it. Just call 866-653-PLAN, 866-653-7526, and that will get you in touch with Anna Olive. She's our client introductory specialist, and all she will do is to match you with an advisor, set an appointment time in an office near you, and see if working with an advisor makes sense to you. That first appointment is always complimentary at GenWealth.